This interview is a paid advertisement. It was produced on behalf of the company and is considered investor relations activity under Canadian securities law. All statements and opinions are those of the guest and should not be construed as investment advice. Please do your own due diligence or consult a registered investment advisor. Hello and welcome everybody to the Gold Newsletter channel. My name is Kai Hoffman. I'm the @JR Mining guy over on X, and of course, your host of this channel, and I'm looking forward to reintroducing you to a company that we featured about a year and a half ago here on the channel. It's Westhaven Gold. The company has gone through a bit of a transformation. They changed CEOs, and they've recently added a new big shareholder and investor into the company, Dundee. What does that mean? Like, what kind of doors does that open now? And of course, how has the business plan changed at $5,000 gold? Really looking forward to the conversation here with Ken Armstrong. But before I switch over to my guest, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out tremendously, and we really appreciate the support. So thanks so much for doing that. Now, Ken, it is a great pleasure to have you here on the channel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Kai. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to the conversation. Lots to talk about. Proper transformation going on at Westhaven. But before we get into some of the details, the shareholder votes, and all of that good stuff, run us a bit through the highlights of the company. Who's Westhaven Gold? Who are you?
Sure. So Westhaven, we're a Vancouver-based junior explorer developer. We have a primary group of projects in the Spence's Bridge Gold Belt in southern British Columbia. Excellent infrastructure access, easy to get to, just 2.5 hours from Vancouver here. We have a preliminary economic assessment on the low sulfidation epithermal deposits that have been discovered on the property by Westhaven. The first discovery was made in about 2018. With excellent economics, a very buildable project, and real potential to find a number of new deposits along this belt. And really our vision is to identify and develop a multi-deposit, multi-generational mining camp in a really highly accessible region of southern BC.
Yeah, fantastic. I've been to the project a couple of times. I can attest to the accessibility. So
Yes.
Really easy to get to. Fantastic. Ken, usually the second question I ask my guests, especially when it's like a reintroduction to the channel, is just cap structure. What are we looking at? I know there have been some changes. Run us through the latest here.
Sure. Yeah. So Westhaven, we're listed on the Venture Exchange. Our ticker is WHN, and we just listed ourselves on the OTCQB, and our ticker is WTHVF. We sit with about 260 million shares outstanding, fully diluted, about 310 million shares out. We did complete a couple of flow-through financings last year, brought in a couple of key new shareholders in Earth Labs, and Eric Sprott joined our share registry, as well as Dundee Corporation as part of a financing that we just completed at January 2nd. I think we closed it in the start of 2025 under the transaction that we're going to talk about here today.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll talk use of proceeds and of course all of that, but we need to get to the big news items first. Shareholder meeting has just concluded here. Run us a bit through the big highlights of that meeting. Why was that meeting called, and what was on the agenda?
Yeah, the intent was basically one question for shareholders to consider and approve, which they overwhelmingly did. What we think is truly a transformational transaction with Dundee Corporation, whereby Dundee will fund the next $85 million of exploration and development expenditures on Shovelnose and the Spence's Bridge Belt projects. In doing so, they could earn up to a 60% interest in the project. It includes a firm commitment for them to spend the next $30 million of exploration. And we announced this deal, it was December 22nd. And I think our market cap was right around $40 million when we did this. And this is a culmination of a longer term relationship that we've had with Dundee. They've been a shareholder in Westhaven for quite a number of years, and took a deeper dive into what we had in terms of the development opportunity and the exploration upside through the fall of last year, and we landed on these terms. This agreement now really important for us, that we retain a 40% interest. Ultimately, we retain our ability to transact on that 40% interest at a corporate level, and it removes really that financing uncertainty, I think, that was around how are we going to finance things moving forward and going to the market and potential dilution. In respect to that, this settles us now. We're for sure going to see the next $30 million, and we can talk about that for the program this year, and then $85 million of expenditures to really get this project on the development track towards PFS and a feasibility study, as well as really properly testing the exploration upside in the belt.
Yeah, absolutely. You just touched on the deliverables already for the $85 million. Like, what are the KPIs? What is Dundee looking for? And runs a bit through the overall business plan. How has that perhaps changed with Dundee coming in? And maybe a second angle, of course, is the gold price at $5,000. But let's stay focused on Dundee first.
Sure. I think what was really clear of this agreement, I mean, important for us, I touched on, is if we were going to enter a JV and earn in a JV scenario like this, that we retain 40%, and we're able to do that. The firm commitment to spend $30 million was important, the ability for us to transact, but really the other piece that fits super well is the alignment that we have technically with Dundee. They have built mines, they've built mines of this type. Internationally, they're a well-respected name in the Canadian mining space, and internationally, they did a deep dive in terms of due diligence, obviously, to make this sort of commitment. But we really had proper alignment, and this became very clear when we really started talking to them in advancing the project along the development track in terms of doing the studies and the work we need to do and the infill drilling that we need to do to move the property through pre-feasibility and feasibility, but also what this ultimately could be. These low sulfidation epithermal systems are not they're not well known in Canada. There's not a lot of them. Globally, the comparable is Fruta del Norte and Lundin Gold in Ecuador. That's the style of mineralization we're looking at. They're very high grade deposits, and they occur in clusters. When you have a system like we have at Shovelnose, which clearly is a large system, there should be more deposits like what we've discovered so far that we still have yet to find. And we're going to be working very hard and have a proper dedicated exploration piece to find more deposits.
Yeah, you just talked about the kickoff of the drill campaign, and runs a bit through it. Like, how big is it? How many meters? How many rigs? What's the plan? Of course, what's the end goal?
A lot of it is still in planning right now, which is good. But it's going to be 50,000 meters plus. It'll be the biggest drill program that this property's ever seen. We will be ramping up to 4 drills. We're drilling now. We'll be ramping up to 4 drills by May or June of this, obviously into the summer, and then we'll be able to carry on drilling through to the middle of December. And we can do that because, again, with our location, we're right off the Coquihalla Highway, which is a 4-lane divided highway, very easy to get to. That where we're located allows us to work 12 months a year. And so from mid-February through to the middle of December, we will be drilling. And the focus of that drilling is going to be a mix of infill on the current resources to upgrade them to measured and indicated resources so they can be converted to a reserve as part of a pre-feasibility study. And we'll also be having a dedicated drill, at least 1, if not 2 of the 4 drills on exploration targets and making new discoveries in the property. So there's going to be a lot of news on the exploration side, and then also obviously news in terms of assays and so on as we complete the infill drilling that's required to upgrade the resources.
No, fantastic. Yeah. Do you expect a resource update by the end of the year, or is that more of a PDAC 2027 kind of scenario?
Hopefully, we'll maybe thread in between there. We'll see we'll see with the cutoff dates, and that's the part we're still just figuring out in collaboration with Dundee. So we operate the program and getting the program up and running. We're going to have some more technical meetings with them over the next several weeks just to map out exactly where timing, schedules on the infill drilling, schedules with other studies, because the other part of the program for 2026 that we haven't really articulated well because we are still pulling it together is the study side of things and moving towards an updated PEA perhaps, and then into a pre-feasibility study. If we go to the PFS route regardless, we're probably looking at around this time next year. We think is a reasonable time frame to have that completed. We need to confirm that, and we'll be doing so in the next several weeks.
What is missing for PFS at this point? Like doing an updated PEA seems like beating a dead horse, and then please don't take that the wrong way. But why not advance to the next stage with the information you're gathering?
And that's the discussion we're having on do we do that? I think the PEA is a preliminary assessment, and that we have the resource is very solid on the 3 deposits. So the South Zone, I mentioned that these are high grade. I think the discovery hole at South Zone was 24 grams over 17 meters, and we have FMN and Franz. FMN was 37 grams over 23 meters was the highlight hole there. These are high grade deposits, They hold together well. I think we're fairly well dialed in that an underground portal decline access is the most cost-effective way to proceed with this. It's the most effective way, and also in terms of just general communication with local communities, and not having an open pit is a huge advantage. We need to do a little bit more work on metallurgy. We've seen no flags in the metallurgical work that's been done so far, but there's a bit more just on variability across the deposit that would be helpful. Mine sequencing is something else that I think we could look at a PEA level. It'll be the sort of the start of the trade-offs that you typically do within a proper PFS, and it's sort of getting us started on those studies while we do the drilling that's going to take us through the summer to upgrade the resource to then have a new resource statement. So I mean, ideally, your new resource statement would be, we'd have a cutoff of, kind of, as I said, need to be finalized, but probably looking at late summer, something like that for the cutoff, and then assays and getting the model done and so on. That it usually takes another couple to 3 months on top of that to get through that piece.
Yeah, fantastic. Are you doing any environmental work already? Any baseline studies? Has that kicked off
Yes,
as well?
I mean, the team has done a great job on that side of things. We've been collecting environmental baseline data for over 5 years now. What we're looking to do as part of the studies as we move towards a PFS is to make sure that those baseline studies are now focused on the project itself. It's been more of a property scale approach for the time up till right now. But now the next stage is we know what the project is, we know where the deposits are, we'll focus in on that. So we're looking at environmental baseline, looking at the permitting schedule in British Columbia, when can we enter it. That's the whole part that we're just looking to put together on the engineering side. We need to do geotech, we need to look at water. We've been doing sort of surface water sampling, but hydrogeology, of groundwater work, all of those things are super important and need to feed into the PFS. And it's really looking at alignment of those pieces, making sure the schedules are aligned, and where certain work needs and results from a certain study are needed to feed into another, to make sure that we have it all right. And we're right at the beginning on this, which is nice. And we can map this out sort of appropriately. And with Dundee's involvement, if we complete a PFS, we'll be able to roll straight into feasibility. So there's one really big advantage for the project, and we're seeing this as we talk to consultants and bringing them on board, is they know that there's not that pause that a junior might have where you complete a PFS and then you got to go market it and raise the next $30 million or whatever for the feasibility. We're not going to need to worry about that with Dundee's backing.
Which is a good follow-up question here. So the $85 million will actually take you to a build decision. Is that the plan?
I think it could. Again, mapping things out in schedules. We had internally mapped out the cost to get to feasibility at about $65 million. So if we're a bit ambitious on some of those prices, it gives us, the 85 is a very nice number. It comfortably gets us. It has us in a place where I think it's very reasonable for us to say that Westhaven's next big financing could be going out to raise our 40% share of project financing to build a mine. That's totally a reasonable statement to make right now.
Absolutely. The question is, maybe following up on my original question about the business plan, of course, how has the gold price sort of changed the internal planning for Shovelnose itself, like pushing forward towards production maybe faster than potentially anticipated? I'm just curious what your thoughts are, and what has changed, or has anything changed?
Yeah, I think the overall view hasn't, in that in our PEA that was March of last year of 2025 at $2,400 gold had a $450 million net present value at a 6% discount rate and a high margin. We'd make $80 to $100 million a year after tax. So it hasn't changed that this project looks good at $2,400 gold, looks even better at $3,000, at plus $4,000 gold. It looks fantastic. So if it's changed anything, it's the fact that we've been able to consummate the agreement with Dundee. We now have shareholder approval to move forward with this, and we will be moving forward as partners to develop this. And we're no longer saying, how are we going to finance this project? It's now, how do we execute? How quickly can we move things along the permitting and the studies pipeline to get this into production in this cycle?
If gold were to drop to $4,000 tomorrow, I'm not saying it will, but volatility has been crazy lately. Let's maybe give it 2 days, right? Would that change your outlook for the company at all? Would you be more conservative, maybe preserve some more cash? How would that change your approach?
No, we're fully focused on building this, and I just sort of touched on the economics of how this deposit looks. It's $80 to $100 million after tax every year at $2,400 gold. So at $4,000 gold, this project needs to be built. There's no flags around this project. We have excellent infrastructure, which leads to a low cost. We're under $200 million Canadian in the PEA to build this mine and get into production. We have a power line that comes right up and actually transects the deposits to service a cell tower that's on the top of Shovelnose Mountain. We have the highway that we've talked about. This is a buildable project. It can be an important project from British Columbia. BC is a jurisdiction where mines are opening. They're being permitted and constructed. Cisco Development's building Caribou just to the north of us. Talisker is reopening the Bray-Lorne mine. We're seeing permits. Highland Valley Copper, which is the biggest copper mine in Canada, is just to the north of where we are. And they just announced an approval of their expansion projects that's going to see that mine stay open for decades to come. So it's an area where the communities understand mining, they understand the benefits of mining, they understand the impacts of it, and it's regionally, it's an area that does appreciate and understand the benefits that our industry can bring.
Absolutely. No, it's a mining area for sure.
Yeah.
Ken, a bit of a cliche question, but I have to ask it. Like, what is the biggest risk that you see that's remaining on the table here? You're fully financed. You got a lot of visibility towards potential production, but what's the biggest risk?
Well, near term, and it's one we totally control, is we're funded. Our shareholders don't need to worry about a big dilutive financing coming. Is we need to execute on the program. As I mentioned earlier, this is the biggest drill program that we've operated on this project. We're going to have 4 drills on the property, 50,000 meters of drilling. We have infrastructure in Merritt that can handle that. Our operations team is very good. We're quite comfortable that we can do this, but we need to execute. We've got a line on the drills that we need to get on the property to do this. But ideally, I think if we were back having a conversation a year from now, we'll have done really well. We have completed that 50,000 meters of drilling. We've infilled the South Zone resource and have a new resource statement either out or very close to being out, a PFS very close to being out. And ideally, we've made another discovery or two to really help us on that, to answer that question and show that this is a camp, that there are multiple discoveries to be made here, and we can develop a series of mines and really have a multi-generational mining camp in the Spence's Bridge Gold Belt.
No, fantastic. Those should be the closing words, but I do still have to ask for upcoming catalysts here. We're always greedy as investors. What do you expect to be news released next? What should we be looking forward to?
Yeah, well, shareholder approval has been, obviously we've been granted that, so we need to make a filing, and that's happening right now with the exchange. So formal closing of the agreement will be a catalyst for us. We're going to be adding drills. We'll be announcing that as we go forward. And then I think sort of a more complete or fulsome view of what the overall plan is. We've talked about sort of $20 million and 50,000 meters of drilling, but there will be more expenditures as we advance on the studies that we need to do to support the pre-feasibility. And so putting all that together in more of a coherent plan, I think is an important piece of news. Because that $30 million investment of Dundee's, that the firm commitment is under the deal is they have 3 years to do that. But we're on track where we can be very close to having that done in the next 12 months even.
Fantastic. Awesome. Ken, that was a great overview of Westhaven. Really appreciate you coming on here on the Gold Newsletter, catching us up what's going on at Westhaven with the deal with Dundee. Congratulations on that. It'll push the company to the next level for sure. I'm excited to see it happen. So I've been following the company for a number of years now. So I'm really excited.
Thanks, Kai. I appreciate that. And yeah, look forward to keeping you informed as we get on with this now.
Absolutely. Can't wait to have you back. And I think you'll be joining us in Frankfurt at the Deutsche Goldmesse mid-May as well. So I'm looking forward to hosting you there.
Look forward to that too.
Looking forward to hosting you there. And thanks so much for coming on, Ken. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning into the Gold Newsletter. Really informative update here with Westhaven Gold and Ken Armstrong. Really appreciate him coming on right after the shareholder approval. Really good to see and hear what the company's up to and what they have been able to achieve here over the recent months. But if you enjoyed this conversation, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out tremendously, especially reach an audience that might already be a stakeholder in Westhaven. And that way we reach just a wider investor audience in general. So thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back with lots more here on the Gold Newsletter channel. Take care out there.